Hey everybody, last week we announced Project Expedition, and in that video you got to see a sneak peek of a couple of parts. That was 2 sets of axial frame rails and a mysterious box which contains the body. Martin's been working really hard on that, and we'll have some great progress to show on that really soon. This week we're going to be talking a little bit about the suspension for Project Expedition, but there's a few things I wanted to mention first. We've now reached 8,000 views and nearly 170 subscribers, so thank you guys for that. I hope you're enjoying everything, and let us know if there's something specific that you want to see. We'll try to cover it if we can. I also need to send a thank you to Jakob's Reassembly. They're the ones that have made this great banner for us. And for you non-Swedish speaking, Reassembly is basically frame and advertising. So they can make any kind of banner, any kind of printed advertisement or media that you guys might need. And I'll put a link to their website in the description below. Let's take a look at the suspension now. Here is part of the suspension system for Project Expedition. What we have here are 4 RC 4-wheel drive remote reservoir shock absorbers. Now if we look at a normal shock absorber, like this Tamiya one here that you can see in our deanodizing aluminum video, the oil contained in this shock absorber is only in this upper reservoir here. And that's all that it can hold. That's it. But if we look at the RC 4-wheel drive ones, we can see that they have an upper reservoir just like the Tamiya shock, but then we also have a hose leading up to the remote reservoir. Now on a full-size vehicle, the point of a remote reservoir is to increase the oil capacity, so therefore the oil can stay cooler, longer, which means that the vehicle itself can go through rougher terrain, harder terrain. The shock absorbers can be essentially abused longer without the oil wearing out or overheating. On a scale vehicle, it's mostly for looks, but it is nice to say that we have real functioning remote reservoir shocks. Most shocks that you'll find today for sale are either air in the reservoir or it's just completely solid for looks only. These actually are functioning. These are not made anymore. I had to dig around for these for quite a while to be able to find a set of 4. Just like with our Tamiya shock, we're going to remove all of the coloring on these so that they will be silver for our final overall color scheme. And so I'm going to take all of the black off of these, just like I did in our deanodizing aluminum video, and then we'll take a look and see what they look like. Okay, so through the magic of a bit of editing, you guys didn't have to sit around with me for the 2.5 hours it took to strip all of the anodizing, the black anodizing, from all of these parts. And as you can see, there's quite a few parts involved with these remote reservoir shocks because they are fully functional. Now we're going to go ahead and reassemble these, putting the seals back in, getting everything all reconnected, and I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to show you some of the upgrades that we're doing with them. Okay, so here we have almost one completed remote reservoir shock absorber, and if you remember, we have a hose line that should be running from this end of the reservoir up into the top part of the shock here, and we use some of this bit of hardware here on either end of the hose to keep everything in place. Now we had these original black bits of hose. The problem is they've dried out, and so now if you go to make a bend with them, they just tend to fold in half instead. So we obviously don't want that. Now in addition, for Project Expedition, those hoses are too short for where we want to place the reservoirs. So I went through my spares and I happened to find several lengths of this longer bit of silicone tubing that happen to be the exact same size. So what we're going to do is reassemble the remote reservoirs with these long pieces for now, and then we'll trim them to length when we have all of the rest of the components for Project Expedition and we're ready to install these. Now to install them, it's pretty simple. All we need to do is take one of the collars, slide it over the tube, slide that end into the tube, and then we just tighten it down. And we do the same thing on the other end. We just have a collar, it slides over, and another piece that slides inside the tube, and we screw the two together. I'm not going to tighten these all the way down, and then we can just put one end into the main reservoir, and screw the remote reservoir onto the other end. And there we have now one completed, much longer remote reservoir shock for Project Expedition. And here we have our reconditioned RC four-wheel drive, fully functioning remote reservoir shock absorbers for Project Expedition. When we get ready to mount these to the chassis, we'll be shortening the lines, as I said earlier, and we'll be adding some more scale details to them to enhance their appearance.